The hall of the alien palace was silent like a grave. Strange lights from crystal lamps fell across the shining floor. Dozens of alien guards stood frozen, their sharp weapons in their hands. But their eyes were fixed on the center of the room. There, inside a cage made of glowing crystal, stood a girl with lavender hair. Her skin was pale like moonlight, and her eyes were bright like stars. She looked fragile, but every alien feared her more than 1,000 soldiers. For centuries the story was told. Any alien who dared to touch the girl turned instantly to dust. They said she carried a curse older than the empire itself. Kings tried to use her, priests tried to cleanse her, warriors tried to test her. But every time, the result was the same. A scream, a flash of light, and only dust remained. The aliens called her the untouchable. No one approached her without trembling. Even the guards who stood near her cage kept distance. The hall was filled with fear whenever her eyes lifted toward them. She was not allowed to speak, not allowed to move freely. Her life was chains, silence, and the endless stares of those who hated and feared her. But on that day something different happened. The heavy doors of the palace opened with a loud echo, and a human soldier stepped inside. He was tall, his face scarred from battles, his eyes steady with courage. The aliens laughed when they saw him. One shouted, "This human is a fool. He will turn to ash in moments." Another hissed, "Let him try. The dust of his bones will join the others." But the human walked slowly across the shining floor. His boots echoed in the silence. Every guard moved aside, not to help him, but to watch his death. The girl inside the cage raised her head. For the first time in years, her eyes widened in surprise. She had seen many come close before, but no human. This was new, and it frightened her in a way she did not understand. The human stopped a few steps away from the cage. He studied her face, not with fear, but with something else. It was not desire, not hatred, not hunger for power. It was something she had not seen before, compassion. The girl whispered, her voice shaking, "Do not touch me, human, you will die." Her hands trembled as she held the glowing bars. "Many have tried, none survived. You will be the same." But the human only smiled. He spoke softly, "I do not believe in curses." His voice was calm, yet strong enough for the whole hall to hear. The aliens laughed louder, their voices filled with cruelty. "Touch her, human," they mocked. "Let the curse eat you alive." Some even placed bets on how fast he would vanish. But the human ignored them all, his eyes never leaving the girl. He took one step closer. The glow of the cage reflected on his face. The air grew tense, like the palace itself was holding its breath. The girl pressed her back against the far wall of the cage, her lips trembling as she whispered again, "Please, stop." But he did not. His hand slowly rose toward the glowing crystal. The guards leaned forward, waiting for the moment of death. The girl's heart pounded like thunder. She had seen this too many times. She could already hear the sound of crumbling bones in her mind. But part of her did not want him to die. For some strange reason, this human felt different. Her eyes filled with tears, though she did not know why. At last his fingers touched the barrier. A flash of light burst across the hall. Every alien gasped, waiting for the scream, waiting for the body to collapse into dust. But nothing happened. The human's hand stayed firm against the crystal. His eyes locked on hers, steady and alive. The hall fell silent in shock. And for the first time in centuries, the untouchable was touched, without death. The palace hall was frozen in silence. Every alien eye widened in disbelief. The human had touched the glowing crystal cage, yet his body was still whole. No dust, no scream, no death. The impossible had happened. The alien guards whispered to each other in shock. "This cannot be," one hissed. "The curse kills all," another muttered, their grip on weapons tightening. The elders sitting on golden thrones leaned forward, their faces twisted in confusion and anger. For hundreds of years they had believed the untouchable was proof of their power. They had kept her in chains, used her fear as a weapon to control others. Now, before their eyes, a human stranger had broken that lie. The girl inside the cage trembled, her lavender hair falling across her face. Her voice was soft, yet filled with panic. "You should not be alive," she whispered. Her hands shook as she pressed them against the glowing bars. "Every alien who touched me vanished. Why not you?" Her eyes searched his face, desperate for answers. But the human only stared back, calm and unbroken. He took another step closer. The glowing barrier flickered like dying fire. A shiver ran through the entire hall. The guards lifted their spears, ready to strike. Enough, one barked. Step back, human, or we cut you down. But the human ignored them. His eyes stayed locked on the girl. He spoke quietly, yet his voice carried like thunder. I do not fear dust. I fear letting her suffer another day. The girl's heart twisted at those words. No one had ever spoken for her. No one had cared if she lived or died. And now this human, a stranger from another world, spoke as if her life mattered. Tears welled in her eyes, but she tried to hide them. She shook her head, whispering, You do not understand. You cannot help me. You will only bring death to yourself. The elders slammed their fists on their golden thrones. One snarled, Remove him, cut him down, let his blood wash the floor. The guards moved forward, armored feet echoing across the shining hall. But the human lifted his hand again. This time he pressed it firmly against the glowing crystal. And the impossible happened again. The cage cracked, bright shards breaking away into the air like stars. A sound like thunder shook the hall. The untouchable fell forward, stumbling out of the shattered prison, straight into his arms. Gasps filled the chamber. The aliens staggered back in terror. They waited for the human to crumble. They waited for the girl to kill him by touch. But the human stood tall, his arms holding her carefully. Her head rested against his chest, and she felt warmth instead of destruction. Her tears soaked his armor. Whispers spread like wildfire among the aliens. The curse is broken, one muttered. No, it was a lie, another hissed. Some even fell to their knees, whispering prayers of fear and confusion. But not all believed. A commander stepped forward, rage burning in his black eyes. This human is a trick, he roared. He has brought forbidden magic. He mocks our laws. He must die. The guards closed in, their weapons glowing with deadly energy. The girl clutched the human tighter, her voice breaking. They will kill you. You must run. But the human shook his head slowly. I did not come here to run, he whispered. I came here to prove truth. The girl looked at him with wide, trembling eyes. For the first time in her life, she felt hope. Her hands gripped his armor, her voice weak but steady. Why are you different? She asked. He glanced down at her, and for a moment the chaos around them vanished. Because I do not see a curse, he said softly. I see a girl who has been imprisoned too long. The hall erupted. Guards charged with blades raised high. The elders shouted for the human's death. But the girl's eyes glowed suddenly, bright as stars. Energy rippled through the room, a force that made the guards stumble. Her power flared, but instead of turning him to dust, the human only tightened his hold on her. Her glow did not burn him, it strengthened him. The aliens screamed in confusion. Why does she not destroy him? They cried. Why does the untouchable protect a human? The girl's voice rang through the hall, stronger now. Because he is not filled with hate, she cried. Because his heart is not poisoned by greed or cruelty. The aliens froze at her words. For centuries they had feared her as a monster. But now the truth began to break through the lies. The curse was never a curse. It was a mirror, destroying only those who carried evil inside. The human raised his head, his voice steady as steel. You locked her away because you feared yourselves, not her, he declared. You turned to dust because you were guilty, corrupt, and unworthy. But I am not afraid, and I will not step back. The girl's power spread brighter, forming a shield around them both. The guards who tried to strike were thrown aside by the force. The elders shouted in panic, their golden thrones shaking. The hall was no longer under their control. It belonged to the truth. And the truth was that one human had dared the impossible. And lived. The grand palace shook with shouts and echoes. The glowing shards of the broken cage still floated in the air like stars. The girl clung to the human's chest, her breath fast and shaky. The human stood tall, his arm around her shoulder, steady as stone. All around them the alien guards spread out, their spears raised, their eyes filled with fear and hate. The elders screamed from their golden thrones. Kill him, kill them both, one shouted, his voice sharp like a blade. Another slammed his fist on the throne. Do not let them leave alive. The guards obeyed. Their boots thundered on the crystal floor, their weapons humming with deadly light. But something strange happened. As the first guard swung his blade, his arm froze in midair. His skin cracked, his body crumbled, and in seconds he turned to dust. Gasps filled the chamber. The others stepped back in shock. The human did not move. His hand only tightened around the girl's trembling fingers. Her glow had returned, but it did not hurt him. It destroyed only those who carried cruelty in their hearts. The human's voice rang out like steel. "You see now, the curse was never hers," he declared. "It was inside you, in your hate and greed." His words cut deeper than any blade. Some guards dropped their weapons, shaking, their eyes filled with doubt. But others, loyal to the elders, roared with rage and charged again. The girl cried out, her eyes glowing brighter. A shield of energy burst from her body, sending the attackers flying across the hall. Walls cracked, pillars shook, dust rained from the ceiling. The palace itself seemed to tremble against the power of truth. The elders tried to command, but their voices were drowned by chaos. The human guided the girl toward the center of the hall. He moved carefully, his eyes sharp, never showing fear. Every step he took made the aliens question their beliefs. How could a mortal man walk with death beside him and remain untouched? How could a human hold the untouchable and survive? The girl's voice was soft, but steady now. "They kept me locked because they feared their own end," she whispered. "They made me believe I was cursed, but I was never the curse. I was their mirror." Her words reached the ears of the guards. Some lowered their heads in shame. Others trembled, afraid to face the truth. One elder, taller than the rest, rose from his throne. His golden robe shimmered under the flickering light. "You dare speak lies," he thundered. "You are a weapon, a danger to all. You should have been destroyed long ago." He raised his staff, glowing with ancient power. Bolts of energy cracked across the floor, aiming at the human and the girl. The human stepped forward, placing himself between the elder and the girl. The blast struck his armor, throwing sparks into the air. The force shook him, but he did not fall. He held his ground, his jaw tight, his eyes burning with defiance. The girl gasped, "You cannot fight him. His power is too old, too strong." But the human turned his head, his voice calm even in fire. "No power is stronger than truth." Another wave of energy shot toward him. The girl screamed, but this time her glow flared like a sun. The blast shattered against her shield, exploding harmlessly into the walls. The elder stumbled back, shocked. "She protects him," one of the guards whispered. "She chooses the human." The hall fell into whispers, the fear of the elders losing its grip. The girl's strength weakened, her knees trembling. The human caught her before she fell, his arms steady under her weight. "Hold on," he whispered, his words filled with a rare gentleness. Her eyes lifted to meet his, tears shining. "You are not afraid of me," she said, almost like a question. He shook his head slowly. "Why would I fear you, when you have suffered more than anyone?" His words spread like fire in the silence. The guards who once obeyed without thought now hesitated. The elders shouted at them to attack, but fewer moved. Their loyalty cracked, their courage fading. The lie of the curse was falling apart, and the human was the hammer breaking it. The tall elder roared in fury. "If my guards are cowards, then I will finish this myself." He leapt down from his throne, his staff blazing with cruel fire. The ground cracked with every step, the air burned with his rage. The girl clutched the human's hand tighter, fear in her eyes. But the human's face did not change. His voice steady as stone, he whispered to her, "Do not fear. They tried to make you a curse, but you are the key." The elder struck with all his strength. The palace shook, the floor split apart. But the human raised his arm, the girl's glow flaring through him. Together, their strength clashed against the ancient fire. The hall exploded with light, brighter than 100 suns. Guards covered their faces, elders screamed. And when the glow faded, the human and the girl still stood, unbroken. The girl's voice rose clear in the silence. "I am not a curse. I am not a weapon. I am free." Her words echoed through the hall like thunder. The human held her hand high, their bond shining stronger than chains. And in that moment the palace, once ruled by fear, belonged to them, not the elders. The palace was no longer a place of order. The air shook with dust, glowing shards, and voices of fear. The human stood with the alien girl at his side, their hands still joined. All around them the guards hesitated, torn between the orders of the elders and the truth their own eyes had seen. The tall elder who had attacked still gripped his staff, his face twisted with rage. "You dare stand against centuries of law," he roared. "She is not freedom, she is doom." But his words no longer carried the same weight. The guards shifted uneasily, their armor clinking as doubt grew heavier than loyalty. The human's voice cut through the noise, steady and calm. "You built your empire on fear," he said. "You called her cursed. You turned every touch into death, but the truth was your own corruption." The girl's glow spread faintly around them, warm and steady. Her soft voice followed his. "They feared me because I revealed what they truly were, cruel, greedy, empty inside." One guard dropped his spear, the sound echoing like thunder. Another followed, his eyes lowered in shame. Soon a line of weapons fell to the ground. The elders screamed in fury. "Traitors, cowards, you will all be punished." But their anger could not hide their fear. For the first time in centuries, their control was slipping. The human guided the girl slowly toward the great doors of the palace. Each step was heavy, every shadow dangerous. But the path opened before them as more guards lowered their weapons. Yet not all surrendered. A group of black-armored warriors loyal to the elder broke through the line, their eyes burning with hate. They charged, spears glowing with deadly light. The girl gasped, but the human stepped forward, pulling her behind him. The clash shook the floor. The human's blade, simple steel against alien energy, cut through the first attacker. The girl's power burst with him, shielding his back. Every strike they faced together. Every enemy who touched them was thrown back by her glow or cut down by his courage. The crowd of aliens roared in confusion, some cheering, some screaming in terror. The rebellion had begun. The tall elder raised his staff once more. Dark fire spread across the hall, licking the walls, cracking the crystal pillars. "You will not leave this place alive," he shouted. His power gathered like a storm. But before he could strike, a deep rumble shook the ground. The palace itself groaned, the ceiling cracked, and pieces of crystal fell like rain. The girl's voice rose, strong despite her fear. "Your lies are breaking the world you built," she cried. "You cannot stop the truth now." The human's hand tightened around hers, his voice low but firm. "We must get out before this place falls." The doors of the palace loomed ahead, massive and guarded by two monstrous alien statues. The black-armored warriors tried one last time to block the way, but the girl lifted her hands, her glow surging brighter than ever before. The statues themselves cracked, their stone eyes burning out, their bodies shattering. The warriors stumbled back, blinded by the light. Together the human and the girl pushed the doors open. The great hall of fear exploded with blinding sunlight. For the first time in her life, the girl saw the world outside without chains. The sky stretched endless and blue. The city below the palace stirred with confusion as aliens pointed upward at the glowing figure walking free. The elders screamed behind them, calling the guards to chase. But fewer obeyed now. Whispers spread through the city like fire. "The untouchable walks," they said. "She holds the hand of a human, and he does not die." Some bowed their heads, others ran in fear, but all felt the truth burning against the lies they had believed. The human led the girl down the shining steps. Everywhere they passed, soldiers hesitated, unsure if they should fight or kneel. The girl looked around with wide eyes, tears shining. "I never thought I would see this," she whispered. Her hand clung tighter to his, afraid it might all vanish. But the human smiled faintly. "You are free now, and freedom does not vanish." Behind them the palace roared with fire and fury. The elders sent their last loyal guards, a wave of black-armored fighters screaming down the steps. The city froze as the battle began. The human drew his blade again, steady and sharp. The girl's glow flared like a shield around them both. Together they stood against the tide. One human, one alien girl, defying an empire built on fear. The people of the city watched in silence. Some whispered prayers, some clenched their fists. But in their hearts a spark lit. For the first time they saw the empire's weakness. And they saw the strength of one who dared the impossible. The battle raged at the palace gates. Every strike of the human's blade rang like a bell of truth. Every burst of the girl's light tore apart chains of lies. The steps became a battlefield of courage against cruelty. And with each moment, more eyes opened, more hearts turned. The rebellion was no longer a whisper. It was alive, breathing, rising with the power of hope. The city below the palace stirred like a giant waking from a long sleep. Crowds of aliens filled the streets, their voices rising in confusion and fear. Above them, on the palace steps, the human and the alien girl stood together, facing wave after wave of armored warriors. The black armored guards shouted war cries as they charged, their spears glowing with deadly light. But the human did not step back, his blade flashing in the sunlight. Beside him, the girl's glow formed a shield, protecting them both. Each clash sent sparks into the air. Each burst of her light cracked the ground beneath their enemies. The people watched with wide eyes as soldiers fell. Some turned to dust instantly, their hatred consuming them. Others dropped their weapons, realizing the truth could not be denied. The elders screamed from the broken palace balcony, their voices raw with rage. "Do not listen to them," they roared. "She is cursed. The human is a deceiver." But their words carried less power now. Whispers rose from the crowd. "If she is cursed, why does he live? If he holds her hand without turning to dust, what else have they lied about?" The rebellion spread like fire in dry grass. One young alien in the crowd raised his voice. The curse was a lie. Another shouted, "We have been slaves to fear too long." Soon dozens cried out together, their voices drowning the elders' commands. The city shook not from weapons, but from truth. The human's strikes grew slower, his arms heavy from the endless fight. Sweat ran down his face, his breaths deep and sharp. Yet he did not fall. The girl's glow flickered as her strength drained. She stumbled, nearly falling, but the human caught her quickly. "I will not let them take you," he whispered, his voice firm even as his body trembled. Her eyes filled with tears. "You are fighting an entire empire alone." He shook his head. "Not alone, never alone." At those words, she felt strength rise inside her. Her glow returned brighter, swirling around them both like wings of light. The warriors who rushed forward froze in terror. The shield of her power pushed them back, their weapons shattering in their hands. The people gasped in awe. Some fell to their knees, whispering prayers not to the elders, but to the girl they once feared. The elders saw the change and grew desperate. One elder shouted, "Burn the city, let them see what rebellion costs." Flames burst from his staff, sweeping across the rooftops. Screams filled the air as houses caught fire, families running in panic. The girl's cry echoed across the steps. "No." Her glow surged outward, spreading like a wave of silver light. The flames bent, breaking apart, vanishing into harmless sparks. The crowd stared in stunned silence. She had saved them. The human raised his blade high, his voice like thunder. "Your rulers built power with lies, with fear, with chains," he shouted. "They told you she was a curse, but she is your protector. She is your truth." The people roared in answer. The sound rolled across the city like a storm. The elders paled, their power slipping through their fingers like sand. But still the tall elder, the cruelest of all, refused to fall. He leapt down from the balcony, his staff burning with black fire. He strode across the steps, his eyes locked on the human and the girl. "You will not take what is mine," he snarled. "You are nothing but a mortal insect, and she is a weapon, nothing more." The human stepped forward, his blade ready. "I see no weapon," he answered coldly. "I see a girl who deserves freedom, and I will protect her." The elder raised his staff, dark power swirling into a storm. The ground cracked, the sky darkened. The city shook as if the world itself would break. The girl gripped the human's hand, her voice steady though her body trembled. "Together," she whispered. He nodded once. "Together." Their glow and steel met the elder's fire with a clash that split the air. The explosion of light blinded the crowd. Walls shattered, steps crumbled, the roar echoed through every street. When the smoke cleared, the human and the girl still stood, their bodies bruised but unbroken. The elder staggered, his staff cracked, his face twisted in disbelief. "No," he gasped, "this is impossible." The human raised his blade once more, his voice firm as stone. "You built your throne on lies, and lies cannot stand forever." The people roared again, louder than ever before. The rebellion was no longer a whisper, it was a fire. The elders' palace burned behind them, their soldiers scattered. And at the heart of it all, one human and one alien girl stood together. Not as curse and victim, but as hope and truth. The city burned with shouts, with fear, and with hope. The palace walls cracked, and the golden thrones trembled. The people no longer looked at their rulers with blind obedience. They looked at the human and the alien girl, standing side by side on the palace steps. They looked at courage and at truth. But the tall elder was not finished. His cracked staff still glowed with dark fire. His face twisted with hatred, his voice sharp as a blade. "You think you have one," he snarled. "You think one human and one cursed child can undo centuries of rule." His voice thundered through the city, shaking every heart. "I will show you power that no mortal can defy." He raised his staff high. The sky darkened, the sun swallowed by black clouds. From the earth beneath the palace, a deep roar rumbled. The ground split open, glowing with fire. From the chasm rose a monstrous machine, forged of black steel and ancient power. It stood taller than the palace itself, its eyes burning red, its body covered in sharp armor. The elder climbed into the machine, his body merging with it. His laughter shook the city. "Behold my true strength. Behold the doom of all who resist." The people screamed, rushing through the streets in panic. The machine raised one arm, and a beam of fire shot across the rooftops, tearing stone and glass into dust. The rebellion froze in terror. How could one man and one girl face such a monster? The girl's glow flickered, her body trembling from exhaustion. Her voice weak, she whispered, "We cannot fight this, it is too strong." But the human placed his hand gently on her shoulder, his eyes steady. "Strength is not in the size of the enemy," he said calmly. "It is in the courage to face it." His words gave her a spark of hope. She straightened, her glow rising again though her body shook. Together they stepped forward, facing the towering machine. The elder's laughter boomed from above. "You will both burn," he roared. His machine's fist crashed down toward them, shaking the steps like an earthquake. The human pulled the girl aside just in time. Stone shattered, dust filled the air. But he did not retreat. He charged forward, blade in hand, his strikes glowing brighter with her power flowing into him. He leapt onto the machine's leg, driving his blade deep into the steel. Sparks burst like fireflies, the monster staggered. The elder roared in rage, swiping at him with massive claws. The girl raised her hands, her glow spreading into a shield around him. The claws struck but shattered against her light. She cried out from the effort, her knees weak, but she held firm. The human climbed higher, his blade cutting through wires and gears. Every strike weakened the machine, but every strike drained his strength. The elder screamed from within, "You are nothing, human, nothing." His machine fired another beam toward the city. The people cried out in terror, but the girl's glow surged once more, bending the beam away, scattering it into harmless sparks. The crowd gasped, watching her save them again. Their fear turned into courage, their silence into voices. They shouted, "The curse was a lie. The girl is our protector." The human reached the chest of the machine, his blade glowing with the girl's power. With a cry he drove it deep, sparks and flames bursting outward. The machine staggered, its steps shaking the ground. The elder howled in fury, his voice breaking through the noise. "You will not defeat me." Dark fire erupted from the machine's core, throwing the human back. He crashed against the palace steps, blood running down his face. The girl screamed his name, running to him. She fell to her knees, tears streaming down. "You cannot leave me now," she whispered. Her glow surrounded him, healing his wounds just enough to rise again. He opened his eyes, weak but alive. "I told you," he whispered, "not alone." They stood together once more. The elder's machine, though damaged, still loomed above them. Its eyes burned brighter, its fists raised for one final strike. The girl looked at the human, her voice steady now. "If we combine everything, we can end this." He nodded. "Together." She placed her glowing hands over his, wrapping his blade in pure light. The weapon shone brighter than the sun. The human raised it high as the machine's fist came crashing down. With a cry that shook the sky, he struck. The blade of light cut through steel, through fire, through the elder's darkness. The machine exploded in a storm of flames and shards. The elder's scream echoed as his body was consumed by his own power. The palace shook, the sky cleared. Black clouds fading into blue once more. The city fell silent, every eye fixed on the human and the girl. They stood in the light, holding each other, unbroken. The people raised their voices as one. The curse is broken, they cried. She is free. He dared the impossible. Hope rolled through the streets like a wave. And for the first time in centuries, the city belonged not to fear, but to truth. The city was silent after the explosion. Smoke rose from the ruins of the giant machine, glowing sparks falling like dying stars. The tall elder's voice, once thunder, was gone forever. Only ashes remained where his pride had stood. The black clouds that covered the sky drifted away, leaving blue light across the land. The people stood frozen, their eyes wide, their breaths held. They looked at the human, standing wounded yet unbroken, his blade still glowing faintly. They looked at the alien girl, her lavender hair shining in the sunlight, her glow softer now, gentle and warm. Together they stood hand in hand, their faces weary but their spirits unshaken. Then, one by one, the people bowed, not to the thrones, not to the elders, but to the girl they once called a curse. Cries rose from the streets, voices trembling but strong. She is not cursed, she is our light. She walks with the human, and he lives. She is free, and so are we. The remaining elders, weak and pale, tried to rise. Their golden robes torn, their power broken. They shouted for loyalty, but no one listened. The guards who once obeyed their every word turned away. Some threw down their weapons, others joined the crowd. The empire built on fear had fallen in a single day. The girl looked at the sea of faces, tears streaming down her cheeks. For so long she believed herself a curse, a danger, a prisoner of chains. But now she saw their eyes filled not with fear, but with hope. Her voice trembled as she spoke. I am no weapon. I am no curse. I am only one of you, and I wish to live free. The crowd roared in answer, their cheers rolling like thunder across the city. The human placed a hand on her shoulder, his voice steady. They feared her because she revealed the truth in their hearts. But truth cannot be chained, and neither can she. He raised his blade one last time, not for battle, but as a sign. Today is the end of fear. Today is the beginning of freedom. The people lifted their fists, their voices joining his. The city shook not with war, but with the sound of unity. As the sun set, the ruins of the palace glowed with golden light. Children ran through the streets without fear. Families embraced, their chains of silence finally broken. The guards who once stood as enemies now walked among the people as equals. Change had begun, slow and uncertain, but real. The girl stood beside the human, her hand never leaving his. She looked at him with wide eyes, her voice soft. You saved me when no one else dared. You touched me when all others turned to dust. He smiled faintly, his face weary but kind. You were never a curse. You only needed someone to believe. Her tears fell again. But this time they were tears of joy. She whispered, I thought I was alone, but now I know I was waiting for you. The human did not answer with words. He only squeezed her hand tighter, his silence stronger than promises. From that day onward, the story spread across worlds. Of the human who dared the impossible, of the alien girl who broke her chains, and of a city that learned truth was stronger than fear. Merchants told the tale in markets. Travelers carried it to distant stars. It became a legend whispered in every corner of the galaxy. The untouchable was no longer untouchable. She walked freely, her steps light, her laughter real. At her side always walked the human, scarred but unyielding. Together they were more than symbols. They were proof that no curse was greater than courage, that no chain was stronger than hope. The city rebuilt itself not with fear, but with trust. New leaders rose, chosen by the people, not by lies. The thrones of the elders were left empty, broken, and forgotten. But the steps where the girl had first walked free became a place of memory, where children played and voices sang, and where no one ever bowed to fear again. At night, when the stars filled the sky, the girl often looked upward, her glow shining gently around her. The human would stand beside her, his gaze steady. What do you see? He asked softly. She smiled faintly, her eyes bright. I see a galaxy that once trembled, but now it waits for something greater. He nodded slowly. And we will walk it together. Their story was not the end, but the beginning. A new dawn had risen, and with it, the galaxy would never be the same again.